Kelvin, I'm Don Pratt, host of a show here on Rogers TV where we give you a perspective of policing your community. Welcome to Policing York Region. Fantastic opportunity today. We're talking with Sergeant Andy Cook from the Ceremonial Mounted Unit. Andy, thank you so much for being on the show.
Well, thank you, Don. My pleasure being here.
You know what? I've had the opportunity, like many others, getting out to special events and seeing the mounted unit. So this was a bit of an exciting time for us, too, to get you on here and showcase where this came from, what it is, and who all's involved.
Well, it was a concept that started somewhere around 2012.
Okay.
And, I mean, it's always been, the idea has always been bounced around probably for the last 15, 20 years about a mounted unit. Yeah. The unfortunate part is there's not always funds to create such a unit. So 2012, we were fortunate to obtain some funding from the Police Appreciation Night. And realistically, it's all history because I put something together in 2012 and, you know, the chief liked what he saw and we rolled it out in 2014 with 6 members.
Wow. And
believe me, we were really busy that first year.
I'll bet you were.
And we just got busier and busier every year. So now we're in 4 years into full-time. Well, it's a part-time unit.
It's a part-time unit, but yeah, 4 years of creation. Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's fantastic. You know, I just want to bring it back where you said PAN money. So appreciate.
So that's the Police Appreciation Night.
Right.
And it's a large dinner in May every year. And it's a big gala where, you know, there are some corporate sponsors and they donate money for programs that wouldn't necessarily fit within the police operating budget.
Right.
And the mounted unit was earmarked for some of that money. And, you know, we used it sparingly and wisely and diligently in making sure that it was cost effective. And so the unit's support comes from that funding every year. So there's no cost to the taxpayer.
Wow.
And so it's actually a win-win on both sides.
No, it sure is. Yeah, when you think of that, I mean, obviously we're talking about taxpayers' money, and you can see that. You can see that relevance, right? So having Police Appreciation Night step up, that's pretty cool.
Well, I think if it wasn't for that event, I don't think the mounted unit would exist as it does today.
Right. Now you said so the concept came up in 2012. You took a couple of years to put it all together, and now you've got six people.
Well, we started with 6. We're up to 16 now, I believe.
Oh, wow.
It's a varying number. People come and go.
Sure, part-time.
Absolutely. And, you know, given people's level of commitment, and, you know, the organizational needs always come first.
Yeah, of course.
But when we can, we do what we can with what we have. And, you know, we've been successful because of the dedication of the people that we have within the unit now.
Yes. Well, yeah, I can speak to that just from the events that I do get out to. I've been out to the Police Appreciation Night. We were actually fortunate enough to have some of your members come out to First Responders Day up here in Georgina last June. And I've got to tell you, how well received. Well, the public just loves it.
I think we haven't been to an event where we weren't liked. We really would have had that feedback. And from what I understand, the feedback through the chief's office has been overwhelmingly positive, and to a point where we're always asked back. And we've had to turn down events because we just don't have the manpower or the resources to go to every single event.
As much as it's a great venture, you can't be everywhere, right?
Absolutely, as much as we wish we could be.
Yes.
Because it really is a lot of fun interacting with the public. And horses are, it's a creature that, you know, you don't necessarily, doesn't matter whether you like them or not, you like the concept and the idea of them. Everyone likes a horse. They might not want to touch them or get close to them, but they want to take their picture. A lot of people
are very much intimidated by them. There's no contest there.
But they want to come up, they want to have their picture taken, they want to say hi, and it really is a great way to bridge that gap. And people that wouldn't necessarily speak to the police or interact with the police, they're drawn in. And
well, as you're talking, that's kind of where my mind is going. Is you being a police officer yourself, you're used to all different types of engagement. This must be a very unique type of engagement for your team.
It really is, and there's it's hard to describe actually the feeling of being on top of a horse. And you know, I got to tell you, it's probably the best job in the world, getting paid to be on a horse and wear a uniform and be a police officer. So you know, it really does. I have a sense of pride and satisfaction in being there and doing it, and it's a great way to interact with the community and sort of, you know, have them come in and have that conversation, because it starts with a horse, and then it could lead to something else. It really is a great. It's a good way to showcase the York Regional Police in a lot of different.
It certainly is.
So
it's a good conversation starter.
Yes,
it's a great public. It's great for the public eye. Like I was saying, you know, when we've had your team out to different events or events that we've participated in, you can, when you get a chance to talk to some of the riders, they share your same enthusiasm. Like you know that they all want to be there. Nobody's being voluntold to this position. They want to be doing what they're doing, right? Absolutely, and you know, they do it for all the right reasons, and for the most part, it could be a multitude of different things. It could be a love of horses, it could be a love of the York Regional Police, or the love of the community, or all of the above. But either way, the people that we've had from the start are very committed, and they do go over and above just to make sure that the unit stays viable, and we continue to grow moving forward. I mean, we do somewhere around 18 to 20 events a year. Oh, wow. Our largest event year was 2 years ago. We did 32 events, which was somewhat overwhelming, but you know, we pulled it off, and sometimes you're a victim of your own success, and everybody wants you to come back. So that's right. But unfortunately, we had to you know, dial it back a little bit and do something that's manageable. Yeah, like we said, as wonderful as it is, you can't be everywhere. And now, talking about getting out to events, because that's primarily where, you know, the ceremonial unit, that's primarily where you're going. If somebody has an event, this has to be a request through the chief's office? That's correct. No different than asking for K9 or any other unit? Absolutely, and we've had a fair bit of you know, interest for Santa Claus parades, and you know, we try to make it to the majority of the Remembrance Day events, because it is important to pay our respects as an organization. Absolutely. In many ways to the fallen from our Canadian, well, you know, soldiers that have died around the world. Absolutely. Well, actually, we have some great pictures that they're going to show up in just a minute about, and these, here they are right here. This is from the 3-district memorial service. Yeah, this was just at the beginning of November, just prior to the 11th. It was one of our snowier days. Yes, yes, it was quite a snowy start to the day. Right. But I mean, they were out there in full uniform, and they were quite the sight to see. There's something quite majestic about a horse, especially when you put a rider on its back who is in a very, you know, smart uniform, looks very professional. Absolutely. I mean, you just have to go to London, England, and see the lifeguard to you know, people look at it with awe. And I'm not saying that that's what we've created here. It's just you want to look the part, look professional, look smart. Yeah, and represent the York Regional Police. So, what type of uniform are they wearing? They're very similar to York Regional Police officer uniform. So this is dedicated strictly for the mounted unit. Yes. So we share a similar uniform with our regular ceremonial, the chief ceremonial unit, where they do the foot drill and the flag details, and they mount the vigil at the Remembrance Day events. And it really, realistically, it's just a more formal uniform than the regular number one uniform that a police officer would wear, so that it distinguishes you as being part of the chief's ceremonial unit. Right. Right. So there are some subtle differences between that and the regular ceremonial unit. You can see it, some of the striping and what have you. But yeah, for the most part, like you say, they're a pretty smart looking uniform, right? Right, exactly. And I mean, we wear high riding boots and spurs, and you know, people kind of make there have been some wisecracks about the spurs. Of course there are. Right, of course, spurs are earned in our unit; they're not just given. So we have to, you know, so it is something that we wear with pride because they've been earned. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, okay, so if somebody wants to become a member of the York Regional Police Ceremonial Mounted Unit, first of all, you're a member of York Regional Police. Yes. And I guess there's a process for that. Well, absolutely, and it's no different than applying for any unit within the York Regional Police. You have to have an interest and have some ability or an interest in horses. Yeah. The idea behind our unit is that we're not
training officers to ride. They should already be confident, competent, knowledgeable riders when we.
Okay, so when people come to you, they've already got an interest in the horse.
Exactly.
And they obviously know how to ride. If you say you're not there training them.
Absolutely. But the unique part about police and military mounted units is that it is a team event. And majority of people who ride horses, it's a very solo thing. It's just you and your horse at solo events. And not many have ridden in a group setting. So horses beside each other behave very differently than they do alone.
Well, I suppose they react to one another, don't they?
They do. And horses have a pecking order. So some horses don't get along.
Okay.
Some get along better with others. Then they have their own personalities and temperament.
It's kind of like human nature.
Absolutely. So they want to get on its good side because there's no winning with its 1,500-pound animal. You have to earn its respect.
Earlier during rehearsal, you said something about 1,500 pounds. Just when you think of that, it's like, wow, that's a whole lot of horse.
Well, it is. So if you want it to do what you want it to do, you have to learn how to ask it properly, because if it doesn't want to, it won't.
Yeah, when they were setting up for the 3-District Remembrance service, I was watching them. One of the horses was getting he was having a little stage fright, I guess, but they brought him around. Andy, on that note, we're going to take a quick break.
Okay.
Folks, we'll be right back after this. Welcome back, everyone. We're sitting and we're talking about the ceremonial mounted unit. And so far we've kind of learned where it came from and how it started. I just wanted to talk a little bit more, Sergeant, about some of the partnerships that you have through the ceremonial mounted unit. Absolutely.
There's several I can talk about.
Sure.
But the newest one, and predominantly comes to mind right away, is Wounded Warriors Canada.
Right.
The York Regional Police were one of the first agencies to partner with Wounded Warriors Canada, and they're an agency, they're a non-profit who help veterans and first responders in dealing with post-traumatic stress disorders and operational stress injuries. And a couple of events, more so the Highway of Heroes ride, which is a bike ride from Trenton to Queen's Park.
Right. Both of those are things that we've talked about on previous shows, because there's something that's very near and dear to YRP, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
Like they take a great deal of pride in having those involvements.
Absolutely, and mental health is a big thing these days, and we know we're good at we're getting better at eliminating the stigma. And Horses does assist in a lot of different ways as a camp practice program. And at the end of the rides at Queen's Park, I've had horses the last 2 years in a row at the end. And, I've had an officer in a ceremonial unit uniform and one officer in a World War I period uniform. So, and the reason behind that is last year was the first year for it, and we went to a couple of events wearing World War I uniforms, and that was to pay homage to the Battle of Vimy Ridge. It was the 100th anniversary.
Yeah, what a way to pay respect.
Absolutely. And, there is a history with YRP in the military, the War of 1812 and the 1st York Militia, and, that's where that deed speak came from, that motto. So, there is a big connection between, the military and York Regional Police. Myself being a veteran, I learned to ride horses when I was out west.
Right, so you were in the Army previously?
Absolutely. So I spent 10 years in the Canadian Forces. The last 5 years were with the Lord Strathcona's Horse in Calgary. And that's where I learned to ride a horse with a halter and bareback. So, and did the musical ride and parades out there. So that's what I brought to the table when I came to York Regional Police. So, I never really thought I'd ride horses again after the military, but here I am.
This isn't the direction you were looking at.
No, but that's the thing. You never know what will come in handy later on in life. So, every piece of information that you learn can come to benefit you later on in life.
Like you say, you never know. Here we are 4 years later. Well, I guess 6 years since concept.
Absolutely. And we've had a fair bit of help from the Toronto Police Mounted Unit as well,
right? And
the Hamilton Mounted Unit. So we have a good working relationship with them. And
like you said earlier, you all kind of work together on many different programs, don't you?
It's the horsing community is very small in North America. And around the world, actually. So, it's if you have a question, and it's everybody knows everybody. And I've had a fair bit of help from the Governor General's Horse Guards, who we've also partnered with as well. They're a reserve unit in Toronto who also have a mounted presence, and so we've done some events with them. They did help us at the beginning to help us get off the ground. So, we have to, give them kudos for offering their expertise.
Yeah. You earlier we were talking about where the horses come from. Mm-hmm. Again, back to this is PAN money, or this is donated money.
Absolutely.
They obviously didn't go out and buy horses.
No. So we have I wouldn't say lease, but it's more of a. We have an agreement with a lady at Briarwood Farms. Jan Humphreys is her name. She's a lovely old lady. She's British. Mm-hmm. I love her to death. I'm British myself, so her and I have some really good laughs. Yep. But she loves the York Regional Police, and many years ago she was involved with the Governor General's Horse Guards as well. So
interesting.
She loves her community. Helping the community, and she loves the idea of the York Regional Police using her horses and going out into the community. And, we really do have a lot to thank her for, because if it wasn't for her, we really wouldn't exist, because we wouldn't have horses. Yeah, yeah. And, we've taken her horses down to the farmer's market on occasion in Newmarket, which has been a big hit as well.
I wasn't able to attend, but I had heard about it, and a lot of good feedback.
Absolutely, there were people that really didn't like police coming up and petting my horse, and it was an interesting interaction. But they really loved the horses. It was.
No, there's definitely something different about seeing an officer in a cruiser versus an officer on a horse.
Absolutely, and I did an interview some years ago with Rogers at the Pan dinner, at our first Pan dinner in the horses, and I'd said, well, nobody ever wants to pet a cruiser, but they certainly do want to pet a horse. So it's a good segue. But
and on here we're obviously just by sheer virtue of the show, we're all about community policing engagement.
Absolutely.
Right, that whole positive engagement piece. So you don't see anything too much more positive than that.
No, and it's everybody that as soon as they see the horses, like even Police Week over at the village, everybody the crowds around the horses. It's
Police Week open house down at
absolutely.
down at Bruce's Mill.
The horses are a big draw, and unfortunately, sometimes when we can't attend these things, there's a lot of disappointment in people because. And I'm sure they'd want to have pony rides, but we're not.
It's not quite the path you're going down.
No, it's not somewhere where we want the unit to go. But it would be nice to grow the unit and be able to do multiple events. And I'm not saying that will never happen, but everything is in due time.
No, absolutely. And like you say, your average is somewhere around 18 a year. Last year being 30-ish. That's a pretty substantial number of events.
Absolutely.
For a part-time unit, right?
Yeah. It's a lot of commitment and a lot of donated time by those members. But, they do it for the right reasons and not because it's about, anything other than just want to be out in the community with horses. Yeah,
they just want to be out there and engage. So, your own background, right now you're actually with the Training and Recruiting Bureau, I understand.
Yeah, Training Education Bureau. I oversee the recruit training program.
Right.
So I get them from day one.
Yes.
And, I usually ask them the first day, is anybody in this class ride horses? Because I might have a part-time job for you.
It's good to know.
Yeah, it's good to know. And yes, it's true. Some have come through that do have that ability, so I may or may not be recruiting them once they're done with their coach officers.
Right. So where I'm going with that is there people from all different areas of YRP? Like you're from recruiting yourself.
Yes, we have both sworn and civilian members on the unit. It's in that it's unique that way. And the nice thing about this part-time unit is it gives the opportunities to civilians that wouldn't necessarily have an opportunity like that elsewhere.
Yes.
And we're split probably half and half between civilian and sworn officers. And, you know, it's a good mix. I mean, but it doesn't really matter what your background is or what your knowledge is. Like, it's the passion and, you know, wanting to be there is what counts.
Right.
And I find that there's no shortage of people wanting to help and do things, and even people who aren't part of the unit want to come and help.
Yes.
Like we do have people from our volunteer unit that want to come out, and they'll just want to come and do stable duties. They don't care. They just want to be.
They just want to be part of
something. Yeah.
Well, that's fantastic.
It is.
And so, I think you said you had 16 or 18 members. 16. 16. Okay. So, at an average event, how many members would you have out to something? Like, say, at the at the remembrance ceremony, or.
So at the so at the remembrance, it depends on what type of event it is. Like so, the bigger ones that we do. So the pan dinner, obviously they're the reason we exist. So we try to put as many. We put the whole unit out at that event. So
yes,
we'll have all 60 members out for that event. We'll go and do Polo for Heart. Which is another great venue for raising money, and you know, and Derek Sifton, who's the co-chair of the Police Appreciation Night, is also a big supporter of the York Regional Police and the unit. So you know, we go to those events, and those are a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
So because you meet all the other types of people on horses, and and this year we did the Warriors Day parade down in to the CNE, and we won second place.
Oh wow!
I won an award, so you know,
it was.
I just learned about that a few weeks ago, actually, which was, you know, it makes us feel good about ourselves and that we're doing the right things, and people actually like what they see. So it's a little bit of a feather in our cap as far as the York Regional Police goes, because you know, again, it paints us in a positive light, which is what we're looking for. And the Remembrance Day events, we try to put 4 horses out. And so for every...
I think there was 4 up at 3 District this past year.
Yeah. So when we deploy, for every horse, we have a rider, and there has to be at least 1 ground crew per horse. And that's just a safety.
So each horse has 2?
2. 2 people per horse, right? So a rider and then a support staff. And that's more so for safety of the rider, the horse, and the general public, because if the horse starts to act up, then that's what the ground crew are for.
Yeah, I guess, you know, I'm just thinking of all the times that I'd engaged them. I guess I never actually acknowledged that.
Right. Well, the idea is that they sort of blend into the crowd, so that's, you know, they're not wearing a full police uniform, because more often than not they get dirty or horse slobber and things on them. So.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So they're everyone plays their own role, right?
Absolutely. Right. And it transitions backwards and forwards, because not everybody can be a rider at the same time. So, you know, I try to you know, even it out, so you know, people get to do the same amount of events in the saddle or on the ground, and vice versa. And some people that are in the unit have no desire to ride a horse, but they're more than happy to be the ground support.
Just want to be part of the
Absolutely, and you know, so to be a part of the unit, you don't necessarily have to be able to ride a horse. So because we do need support crew as well.
Yeah, no, actually, yeah, absolutely. It takes a whole team, right?
Absolutely.
To put it together. Now, you oversee the mounted unit?
Yes.
And who does, like, you know, the one thing we know about York Regional Police is everyone has somebody that they answer to. Who does the York Regional Police mounted unit?
So I answer to the chief directly through the executive officer.
Branch.
Yeah. Right. So right now that's Superintendent Graham Turrell. So
right.
He's ultimately makes the decisions.
Yeah. He's the guy that decides whether you go or you don't go.
Yes, absolutely.
And this is, you know, not to make light of it, but this isn't something that, you know, as Mr. and Mrs. Public, you know, well, I'm having my kid's birthday party next week. That's not the type of thing that this unit was created for.
Well, absolutely. I mean, we've had many requests like that, but the idea is that, you know, we want to go to events that are, you know, community events where there are larger crowds, and anything that involves a police or Remembrance Day or larger events. Because at the end of the day, we also have to think politically. We can't be going to events that are political in nature and things like that. So, you know, things like, you know, the Sutton Fair, and we had just recently had an event down at the Markham Fairgrounds.
Right.
So, every time we go there, everybody loves the mounted unit, right? So it's a great. I mean, there's a lot of crowds. Sometimes it can be overwhelming, and you have to have the right horse and right temperament for them to deal with those crowds.
Yeah, I was talking to one of your members, Melanie, and that's exactly what she says. Is sometimes you have to pick the horse for the crowd.
Absolutely.
Right, and not being it's not something that I've ever been part of, so I wouldn't have that. Right, so I'm actually one of the guys that gets intimidated when you walk up next to them.
Well, and they can pick. Horses are very good at picking up on people's temperament.
Yeah,
and
it's kind of like what we were talking
so,
about before. It's personality, right?
Yes.
They actually do have their own, I guess, personality.
Absolutely. Right? When I was in the military, the horse that I had issued to me, I mean, he would steal my sandwiches out of my lunchbox. You know, again, because they're mischievous.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Andy, for being here.
Well, you're very welcome. It was my pleasure.
Folks, that wraps up this episode of Policing York Region. Been great having you. Look forward to seeing you again.